YouTube, so I held myself accountable, and I'm here to do a weekly wrap up of all the books I read this past week. I'm saying that because I typically do a bi weekly or monthly wrap up, and that just doesn't work. If I want to talk about all the books I read, because I read too many to sit down and tell you all of them, at the end of the month. So that being said, I read 11 books this week. I had a very good reading week because of the heat and just not being in the mood to go anywhere except stay in right beside my fans and the air conditioning. So it was very conductive for reading. And that being said, it's pretty dark here today. It's been cloudy and actually thundering with a little sprinkling of rain, which is not normal for the western part of the United States, but a nice reprieve from like the glaring sun and heat. It's like giving me hints of like the fall to come, which I don't want to skip over time, but that being said, it would be nice if it jumped down to like 60s and 70s again. But yeah, I can't exactly complain because I know a lot of places it's very hot, and for here it's gonna be, I think, the highs of like in the 70s these next like 3 or 4 days. So yeah, all good there. So maybe with that, like I just had a lot of reading time. Maybe with that, I'll be wanting to go out and explore quite a bit. But week by week, we ebb and flow with things. But yeah, in a way. So I read 11 books, and I'll start with my physical books, and then I'll go to my ebooks. I try to do half and half, just so I can knock out some of the books on my shelves. That being said, if you can tell from the look of things, I finally managed to get most of my books organized. Except for some of the very tippy top, which I have to get a ladder to organize. Otherwise, it would all just fall on my head. Like I just know it would. So I haven't touched the very top. But once I do that, I want to do a bookshelf tour. But what I did this last couple of days is these two bookcases here are all nonfiction, except for again the very top. So I alphabetized it, and then this shelf up here is all history. But everything else from this part going on is more like general nonfiction, nature writing, things like that. And so yeah, and I had room because I spaced everything out to actually like have some like I guess like like covers that I can show. Because when I go to a bookstore, I love what is this called? Like face fronting? Is that what it's called? Books, because they stand out and you can actually see them. It draws your eye when you're shopping, instead of just the spine. So I wanted to like have some like pops of, and I think it's good for me and you, so you have something more to look at. So maybe I will like rotate the books here and there, and show different covers. That way, it's not just a plain boring background. Yeah, I thought it was fun, and these will be changing. Whether I wanted them or not, basically, because with books coming in and books going out, I try to be ruthless with like the culling of my books. Like once I read a book, I have to love it to or really want to reread it to keep it. So yeah. Anyway, digression aside, here are some of the books these are all the books I read this past week. So and some including some that I just finished right before filming this video. So The Friendly Austen, Jane Austen by Natalie Tyler. This is a book I just finished earlier today, and it's like a trivia or of sorts of like all things Jane Austen, including like in the very back talk about different Jane Austen clubs and like film adaptations, TV adaptations, plays, interviews, quizzes, and then also what I focused on was, outside of focusing on her biography of Jane Austen, I read through each of the descriptions of Jane Austen's main works, and she also includes the smaller, lesser known works like Lady Austen, the Watsons, and so on. So I've read some of these like summaries, even though I haven't, for my TBR for Jane Austen July, along with several of these, I wanted to read the Watsons and Sanditon, like two of her like the more known works outside the juvenilia that I've never read. So I went ahead and like spoiled myself by reading the summary of them. But I don't mind. I think like a background knowledge on books never hurts, especially for classics. So yeah, this was very interesting and different. Like I said before, when I was sharing my TBR with you, I've read biographies, but this is it's like a quirky biography, if you will, because you got not just Natalie Tyler's opinion, but she pulled in so many different people. For each chapter in this book practically has someone else's opinion, like whether they are, well known, or like a professed, educated, teaches teaches Jane Austen academic wise. Or you also, what I thought was really funny is in the back there was different quotes from like soap opera stars of the day. This came out I think in the 90s, and so like Guiding Light and General Hospital, those kind of those kind of soap operas. But this came out in 1999. But yeah, this was just a delightful read. It's something, speaking of books keeping on my shelves, this will be one of them. Okay, then I read The Polar Express for Christmas in July. And this is by, let me see here, written and illustrated by Chris Van Allsburg. And I had never read this as a kid. Maybe I read it as a kid, but it didn't stick out in my memory. I feel like I feel like I would have read it as a kid. If my teacher read it to us in class or something. But I had no recollection of it. So this is basically my first go around. But yeah, I loved the snowy artwork of it, and it's just a very short story, but about a boy who the Polar Express comes through his town one day, and so he gets on the train and goes up to the North Pole and meets Santa Claus. I'm serious. I feel like a lot of people know this story already, and then he gets he gets to ask Santa for a gift, and is given a Christmas bell. And so him hearing the bell, like holds like the Christmas spirit, and so only people who believe in Santa Claus can hear the sound of the bell. So yeah, it was a very charming, cute, quick story. And then the other book I read for Christmas in July, I read one more actually, like I want to roll with reading, like I was saying, A Covington Christmas by Joan Medlicott. That being said, like maybe me reading these Christmas books is like changing the weather. No, but it's actually, the cooler weather is fitting with these books. So this one is about 5 weddings, because at first when because I didn't read too much in these books when I was picking them for my TBR for these now, and this is for the next 2 weeks. It's from July 15th to the end of the month, so you still have time if you wanted to join in on Christmas in July. But these are just delight. Like I really like reading these like out of season books. It's just, I feel like Christmas books in general just spread the Christmas joy, and you can't help but smiling and being cheered by them. And so that being said, I went into this kind of blind, but I knew, like, just based on the cover here, it was saying like get ready for 5 special Christmas weddings. So they are this group of people are renovating this church because there was a fire, and like all the smoke and stuff, and so they were cleaning things out. And come to find out that the previous pastor wasn't like an ordained pastor, so he had married 5 different couples, and they were never actually married, even though they got their license and had performed the ceremony and all that. Because he wasn't an ordained pastor, they didn't count, so they had to get married all over again. And yeah, it was just a cute story. I liked it enough. And yeah, I've never read anything by this author before. It was felt more like a family drama of sorts than a romance. But yeah, like the cover there. And then while I'm speaking, I know I'm going over my physical books, but I'm just going to go ahead and wrap up the third book I read for Christmas in July, and that's The Christmas Swap by Sandy Barker. And it has it's Melbourne, Australia, and Boulder, Colorado, and then London, England, which is not pictured here at all. You just got the 2, I guess, stars of the show in a way. But I shouldn't say that was star of the show of the cover here. But it's equal. The book, you're constantly rotating through the 3 different main characters. You're following 3 different women who met when they were 11 years old in Hawaii on each of their family vacations, and they made a pact to be best friends for life. And so somehow they stay. This book, I would say, it's very unrealistic because anyway, these 11-year-old girls who meet one day, become best friends, like all long distance, and you flash forward 22 years when they are 33, and they're all equally dissatisfied with their life in different ways, like through their jobs, like with their manager, or being so busy in their work, things like that. And they're all single. But so Christmas comes around, and one of them, the one in Melbourne, Australia, her family is leaving, so she doesn't have anyone to celebrate Christmas with. So somehow or another, like on a video chat, they decide, oh, well, let's do the holiday switch. And it's that's there's a movie, The Holiday, where they switch. And so with this, there's not just 2 people switching, with 3. And so they all get mixed around. The unrealistic part along with like them magically becoming friends and staying friends for decades after like one day of meeting, is that they each like instantly fall in love with like the perfect guy for them, like day one or day two of being in their new location. That was like, I don't really care for the insta love. Yeah, it just doesn't it's not realistic at all. But it was the story. If you put that aside, the story was very cute. But one thing, because there's three different people in with three different guys, like the perfect guy and all that, the stories, I mean the characters, like they all felt like the same character, just in a different location. You couldn't really identify if you took out the name, it could just be the same person each go around, and it got kind of muddled in a way, because I'm like, who just went where, like, I mean, this Melbourne one stuck out because of like the the hot weather and the beaches and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, it was a cute enough story, but just I feel like it would have been better, like the holiday movie, which is like two couples, it would have flowed better. Okay, so going back to the physical books I was reading, Adventures with Hal by Gladys Baker Bond. I found this at a little free library, one that's actually right in front of like I think it's not a nursing home, I think it's an assisted living home. So there's lots of older books there. I'm always finding like, and so this is from like, I think the 60s. I want to say like the 50s or 60s. 1965. So I'm always finding older books there. So it's always like fun to go check out that specific little free library. But this is about Hal, who is going to visit his grandparents in the like mountains, lake area in Idaho, and his cousins all come along, and you can just tell it's like from the 50s or 60s just by like how the kids are drawn. But he throughout this whole book, he wants to go camping, but the cousins aren't ready yet for camping. They are not outdoorsy people. They're all like from like Kansas City and like New York City, like big cities, and so they need some help and to learn how to be outside before they can go camping. So it's a very simple storyline, but charming enough. And so that there's even a map of the lake and what all they're up to there. And then throughout the whole book, there is artwork, which is also fun to see. But yeah, there's a bear, there's a cougar, there's like how can you learn to fish, and identifying different tracks. Like for the bear, for example, they didn't know what that track was at first. But of course, we as readers knew, and you're like, oh my goodness, like you need to like not exactly play around in that area maybe. Oh yeah, speaking of the bear, here's the bear right there. So yeah, I really like the artwork in this book, and this is it's a Whitman tween age book, and so this is well before like the young adults, middle grade, all those categories of books that we see now in bookstores. But yeah, it was interesting to see like a 60s take on. I would say this is for sure like a middle grade book, because I think the main character, I want to say he's like 10 or 12. Okay, the next one is Icebound Summer by Sally Carriger. I think I own all of Sally Carriger's books now, but I haven't read them all. So this is one that I've read most of them. I only have like one or two left. But this is all about the summer in the Arctic, and so you follow different animals each chapter, and there's a little like drawing on each chapter. So this one says luck is like weather, and so here's some. See, what are these? The turns. Yeah, I thought that's what it was, but I couldn't remember the exact name of them. But yeah, there's all sorts of creatures that you're following, but they're all interconnected. So yeah, there's like muskrat and things, or lemming. This is a lemming. Sorry. But yeah, so each chapter you lead in like you have each animal's little mini story. You're following one animal in like the herd and what they're doing, and then somehow like the area they're in, or like a bird flying over that area. Okay, then that's the next chapter kind of thing. So they're all like slowly linked, including humans as well. And yeah, I highly recommend Sally Carriger's work. She's like for if you like nature writing, because I feel like she's like like a classic nature writer. And they're older books. This came out originally in 1951. She's most famous, I feel like, for One Day on Beetle Rock. That's set in California. And then the last physical book I read is Strawberry Hill by Mary Ann Hoberman. And I was initially intrigued because the author is listed as a poet, and she's won many awards, and she's been a poet for over 50 years, and this is her first debut book. And so I was like, oh, it's gonna be like tons of lyrical poetry writing and things like that. But at least like looking at Goodreads, she is mostly writes children's books, and that comes through completely in this, because this is a middle grade book, but the sentences are very short and with very simple words, like the cat sat on the rock, like very, very simple, like easily identifiable words for children, like young age children. So this didn't read exactly true to even the character's age. I think the character is like 12 or 13, and I feel like those like 12-year-olds for sure could read at a higher level than this. So like it threw me off, like what my expectations were of being like someone who's like a poet for 50 years. But the story is about a girl who is moving house. She's not just moving house, but moving to a different town, to a place called Strawberry Hill. So she initially thinks, oh, it's gonna be like farm fields and strawberry fields. But no, it's just in a normal suburb. But she makes friends with her neighbors, and the big conflict here is that she follows like the Jewish heritage, and her neighbor is Catholic, and so there's like a butting heads there, because not exactly with the Catholic neighbor, but her best friend. And so the neighbors like falling with her best friend, or like like being against like Jewish people and things like that. So like even though this is very, very simple writing, it does have lots of like moral teachings in here for especially young kids of this age. Okay, so going through my other ebooks, I just have a couple more to share with you. Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This is a reread for me. I've only read this one other time, and this time I listened to it on audiobook. I can't remember who the narrator was, but again, I feel like these kind of books don't need any introduction, but I love this story. I feel like it doesn't get as much love and attention as it deserves, but it's basically like a satire of novels of Jane Austen's day, with like the gothic sensational books, and she just turns it all on its head, where the main character, like, she's going to this like big gothic house, and so she's like, from all the books that she was reading, she thinks, oh, now like all these mystical things are gonna happen, but so it's just a delight to read. And I really like reading gothic books, gothic suspense books. I grew up reading Philip A. Whitney, and so I like all those gothic books from like the 70s and 80s. They were written back in Jane Austen's day, and this was just a delight to read. And that being said, I also this past week, I'm trying to get better with watching movies, and so I watched, was it the Jane Austen Book Club? I think that's the name of the movie. But so each of the characters in the movie was they all got together to read each of Jane Austen's main works, and so each of the characters who picked the books, like the character who picked the Northanger Abbey book to lead the discussion with, they are like living like a mini life of the books, or like they are like the main characters in the story. And so when the Northanger Abbey came around, the guy, he like turned his whole house into like the gothic like scary spooky house for Halloween, and that stuck out in my mind. And that movie, it was pretty good. I really liked it. And so if you haven't seen that and you're reading books for Jane Austen July, then I recommend you giving that a go. Then I read Justice at Cardwell Ranch by B.J. Daniels. I have been making my way slowly through B.J. Daniels' series. She has quite a few, and it doesn't exactly say on the cover here, but it's like the Cardwell Ranch series, something like that, because each of them have I'm guessing because each of them had Cardwell Ranch in the title. But this is following the main character who was in the previous book. She has like, she settled down with like her partner and all that, so she has her house and she has children, and now in this book she's still in this story, but it's following her siblings who come back to town for one reason or another, and they moved away from the ranch when they were as soon as they could, and never looked back, kind of thing. But somehow or another, different circumstances have brought them back, and so you're following the brothers' love story, and with him being reacclimated to the town and getting tangled up with the local cop. Because what I really like about B.J. Daniels' work is like you follow several characters, and like, there's so many different mystery threads going through. So you're not just following one mystery; there's several, and so you're following his like entanglement with teenagers that he grew up with, and like so he's helping the cop, the local cop, figure out like the timeline and like what's happened in the past. I don't give too much away if you want to read these stories, but what went on, way back when, and then you're following the sister who is coming back to town because she has never been that honest or that trustworthy, and so like, can you take what she's saying now on its face, face value, or with a grain of salt kind of thing? And there's whole other mystery story there going on, because she comes to town with the baby and has never mentioned before being pregnant or anything. So like, is this her kid or is it someone else's? You'll have to read it and find out. But yeah, highly recommend B.J. Daniels. She's one of my favorite Harlequin intrigue novel writers. I read The Witch Boy by Molly Knox Ostertag. I can't remember which booktuber talked about this book, but I thought I would give it a go. But this is about a boy who wanted to learn to be a witch, but he's a boy, and so in this world, only girls can learn magic. I mean, witchcraft, and then the boys are shapeshifters. But he wants to like defy that and learn the witch powers. But the part that so I got like a notice there. I had a notice of like my battery dying, so hopefully I need to wrap up this video before before it dies on me. But in this one, what I didn't like about it is he's constantly spying on the girls, and so it was hard for me to like him as a character, because he was constantly sneaking around and lying about what he was doing, and you get why he's doing that, but still, like, it's not exactly, I don't know. I like this enough, but it wasn't a favorite of mine, or this I think is a whole series. I don't think I'm going to continue on, but it was cute enough, but yeah, didn't exactly care for it. And then the last book I read was a buddy read with Amy over at Zoe Beck, and reread Ivanhoe by Sir Walter Scott. And here it says, a disinherited knight fights to restore his name and the crown of England. And this is a book that's been on my TBR, I feel like, forever and ever. There's several classics. I do like reading classics, but there are several on there that just like been lingering there. And so like, this is like, if it wasn't for the buddy read, I feel like it would probably have lingered for years on end more. And so I'm happy that I can cross that book off on my list. But this is full of the medieval ages adventures, and there's tournaments. You can see on here, like, I feel like for sure this would make a really good movie, and so I'm gonna see, maybe today's Sunday, and so maybe tonight I can watch an adaptation, or hopefully this coming week of Ivanhoe, because I feel like it'd make a fantastic movie, because there's so much drama and intrigue and like romance, and it's just like filled to the brim. You're constantly like going through lots of plot here, and Robin Hood's like, it was like a secondary character in here, which I knew nothing about this book going into it. I went into it completely blind. Wikipedia, I will say Wikipedia was my friend. I needed that because I don't know a lot about medieval history at all, or Robin Hood, anything. The only Robin Hood thing I know is I grew up watching a cartoon movie where Robin Hood and the whole cast were animals, and Robin Hood was a fox. Let me know if any of you have seen that movie, because I loved it as a kid, but that's my only introduction or knowledge of Robin Hood. But yeah, this book made me want to like go read some Robin Hood books. But yeah, this was a delight to read. I will say one thing is the writing style threw me off a little bit. It took me a while to get used to it, because it read almost clunky in a way. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, because there's tons of action, but I feel like you have to like jump over hurdles in a way to, because I know Sir Walter Scott likes to expound on things, and so I feel like it kind of diverts it a little bit from the action. But that being said, I do recommend this, and I do want to read more of Walter Scott's writings. I think I'm going to go back to, because this is like in the middle of the Waverly series. So I want to go back and read the first one. And I think, like looking at Wikipedia, this book is like a departure from this typical Waverly series setting and timing. He like went back in history to write this one. So yeah, but yeah, happy to have read that one. Yeah, so that's my long diatribe on all the books I read, but I'm happy to have like sat down and shared them all with you, because like I said, if I did this at the end of the month when I have potentially 30 plus books, I can't do them all. I can't share them all with you, because like, unless you want to sit with me for an hour and a half, and like I'm sitting on the floor here, like my legs would just go numb. I need to find a way of like having like a couch or like a little chair here, or something like a folding chair. It would be good. Anything. But yeah. Anyway, I'm fine to sit here and chat with you. But anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, BookTube.